This is a Touchstone Publishers presentation, your trusted source of leadership knowledge.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm so stoked to be here.
We're going to have a fun time. There you go. You got frozen there for a second, but we're working, so it works out just fine. Let me turn off one more light here so you can see my eyes just a little bit. Okay, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind. No, I have a better question for you. What is it about you, your company, that people just don't quite understand that might be a good point for them to have? And you froze again on us. Okay, I know she's there. Let's see. Okay. Hey, the rule is we go from start to stop with no stopping, start to finish. Okay. Don't know why. Let's see here. Hang in there. So, oops. All righty.
All right. Should we try this again?
Yeah, we won't start all over again because that's the rule, but we got you going. So I don't know what happened there, but we will start with my question that I was asking you.
I did not hear the question.
Because you froze, and I said, wait a minute, she's not hearing me because she's not moving. Then I saw that you had frozen. So my question to you is simple. Not so simple, but it's my question. What is it about you or your organization and company that most people just don't understand, or they miss, or you think they really should hear about?
I think the thing that is difficult to understand is how reliable and essential intuitive guidance is. Intuitive guidance seems to be the province of women, when actually it's our deeper wisdom that both men and women share. So the way that I coach my leaders and my transformational coaches, because I work with two different groups of people, is to get out of the way of the guidance that I'm fortunate enough to be in touch with and reflect back to them their blind spots, or perhaps deep knowledge that they needed reassurance or affirmation about.
Oh, pushing out of the way of that guidance has always been my challenge. And I have to wonder, how do you as a expert step out the way to allow that person to reflect back to themselves? I know that's a 10-hour question, but is there a way that you can make it easy for the step back breathing, or is there anything like that we can do to help us step back from that?
Yes. So there's a couple of things that everybody can do. And I come from a mind-body background. I was a therapeutic yoga master instructor, so I certified teachers. And I find that meditation in general has this sort of air about it that is unfortunate, because it keeps people from appreciating what's really going on. And because I only work in evidence-based practices, what's really going on in meditation is what we call attentional control or attentional direction. It's a focus tool. That's all it is. In addition to focusing, you put your body in the most neurologically organized state it could be in. This is called coherence. People who are familiar with the Heart Math Institute know about coherence. It's where you essentially get your heart and your mind aligned on the same frequency. You calm the body down and put it into rest and digest, which is what we call parasympathetic dominance. From this place, your ability to receive deep wisdom. Okay, so let me just put it for all the male listeners who don't identify with intuition. It's your gut instincts, right? That's a little bit more the masculine approach. It's your gut. You're able to hear it and trust it because you are in such a calm, receptive state. That's how we get that information to come forth. Sometimes it's just a whisper. So we need to quiet our own minds by focusing our attention. And one of the ways that I teach people to do this is a nervous system hack. And generally, I don't believe in hacking. I go deep fast with all of my clients.
Right.
But this particular, sometimes it's easy to have a little shortcut. The shortcut here, and follow along, just see how it goes here. Just take a deep breath and notice what's moving in your body. Right? When you take a deep breath, you can watch your shoulders move. That is an incomplete breath, and it's also in the fight or flight region. It's in the chest. This is how we breathe normally every day, shallow chest breathing. Okay. This is not going to help matters much. However, if you can just keep your shoulders still and take a breath, notice where your breath goes in your body. I'm
Toward the
making my
solar
breath,
flex, yeah.
it goes down.
Yeah.
That's how we hack the nervous system. This is how we induce a state of calm by consciously choosing our breath. This also instantly connects the mind body relationship and allows people to be present. And it is this presence that is the foundational piece of receiving, getting out of the way, if you will, receiving these impulses, these informational impulses. You can call it gut instinct, you call it intuition. It's all out there, it's ready to be received. We need to be receptive. So we need to get out of the way, calm the body, calm the mind, focus the mind so that information can come up to the surface and be received.
Okay. So I noticed that you drew the distinction between men and women. And that's more of a cultural thing, you think? Just more, or is it doesn't have anything to do with physiology or anything like that? It's just a cultural difference?
Correct. Now, there is this fascinating, I'm so glad you asked this. I read this fascinating study. It was a Harvard business study. And in the study, they were trying to determine, and the study was all about intuition between the genders in a business setting, because women tend to be more what we call socially sensitive. And that's one of the ways that we're wired. It's true. Men, however, if you think about military, police, spidey senses, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
And these men are ninjas with this intuition. They know immediately. Firemen, when I worked as a firefighter, a seasoned fire captain can go in and be like, everybody out. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know it's not good. Everybody out. This is intuition at work. So for businessmen whose lives aren't at stake necessarily, their physical bodies, only their professional lives,
Yes.
tend to be more data driven. So the study was this. They had men and women pair up. And in one instance, the male was the leader and the female was a subordinate. And in another instance, they switched it so the female was in the leadership position and the male was in the subordinate position. And what they found was that was all it took for the male to access and use intuition just like that. Because it's not, you don't have to develop the sense. The only thing you need to develop is your awareness and sensitivity to it. Men have been taught to desensitize themselves to their gut instincts, right? Unless your life's at stake, and then it becomes professional skill set, a soft skill set. So what was amazing, Glenn, was every time a male was put in the role of subordinate, these soft skills came out of nowhere. And the determination was that intuition is not the providence of women. Intuition is the providence of subordinates. And in our culture, women are still primarily culturally conditioned to be subordinate, which is why our intuition is so clear to us.
And that's just because we've kept women in that position. And so they're able to do it more. I think it's always unique that you're saying that if you put a man in a subordinate position, he's going to start to rely on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Subordinate to a woman, not necessarily to another man.
Here's the thing. If you take the gender out of it, subordinate leader, whoever's in the subordinate role it's in their best interest to anticipate that, which is done through social sensitivity, the needs of the person to whom do you get this?
Yes,
So this is an anticipation exercise. It's social sensitivity. If you are in the position of being a subordinate to a particular person, you're going to read their mood when they come in. You're going to look at their body language. You're not even aware that you're doing it, but this is what subordinates do when they are in service to a person in a leadership role. And the gender doesn't matter.
The gender doesn't matter because really what it becomes is a survival mechanism so that you can keep the job or keep the money flowing in. It becomes a survival mechanism so your instincts will come up. Now, we may not label them that way. So we didn't talk about this in our pre-show, but I've discovered unbreakable women.
Yes.
Okay. And that is an area where you talk about the compassion. Okay. And that gives women a head start on men. Am I reading that right?
Now, when you say head start, I'm really curious what you mean. Can you be more specific?
Head start, I'm being able to connect with, okay, I'm being specific.
Yes.
A head start, I'm being able to connect with the universal knowledge, to your instinct, being able to pull from walking in a room and seeing moods without people actually saying anything and being aware of those moods.
Yes. And again, this is a cultural conditioning piece. Both men and women are capable of what you just said. The difference is compassion, humanity, sensitivity has been conditioned out of men. Men are not taught to value those things. And the unfortunate piece of that is all men are human, beautiful humanity. There's nothing stronger than a man who has the courage to feel in front of others, AKA vulnerability. And I'm not talking about breaking down and crying in front of your team. That's not what I'm talking about. Exposing your humanity makes you a more accessible and influential leader, period. This is empirically proven. This is not my opinion. Brene Brown has built quite an empire
Yes,
on
yes,
this,
she has.
on
She
this
has,
fact, right? So this is what we call heart-centered leadership, right? So women are considered the nurturers. I got to tell you though, listen, I live in West Seattle. I've never seen, this is daddy town. I have never seen so many dudes, and I'm not talking about like daddies. I'm talking about dudes, tatted up, cap wearing, cigarettes in the back with the baby Bjorn. Dudes with babies. And you can see their humanity, you can see their sensitivity, you can see how much they care for their children. And it doesn't make them appear weak. It makes them appear awesome and powerful, that they can nurture their babies. This is not a female attribute. It's just that men have been taught it is not safe to have compassion. It is not safe to feel. So when I wrote Compassionate Self-Defense, it was mainly to help women see that they don't need to learn to fight like men in order to be safe in the world. That's completely unnecessary. It's all of their soft skills. It was essentially two things: an advanced situational awareness manual, Compassionate Self-Defense and Empowerment, the book that I wrote. It was a manual with tons of research, right? Like I said, evidence-based is the way to go for me. I'm very left brain. I'm a tactician. And I feel like if I don't present the evidence, it's not going to be believed or executed.
Yes.
So I help women see the science of intuition, help them understand where these intuitive signals are coming from, help them trust when they come in, especially if they're subtle, because some of them are easy to miss and they're always missed, and then help them, give them permission to speak up for themselves. Because sometimes the criminals, and I would like to point out here, the first thing that I say in my book is there will be no man bashing. There are so many men whose entire lives are dedicated to the safety and equity of women. And it's very important that women see that, and that we don't allow ourselves to be fooled by the dehumanization that's going on in the media.
Yes.
That's the compassion piece. These men are walking wounded, and they were not born this way. Something went down in their childhoods, and they are in pain. That's who's doing these crimes, and it's 10% of men. 90% of men are not on the radar because they're awesome.
Yes, yeah. And that's how the media makes money. So we won't go down that road.
We're not going to go down that road. That's a whole different podcast, Glen.
And I think that's a very powerful spot to start with, though, to think about, okay, we're not bashing anybody, okay? And especially that small minority that's getting the news headlines, okay? We're not bashing those. What we're talking about, though, is a balance. Okay. Now, by the way, I spent yesterday at the best university in the world, getting ready for the fall. So we can disclose that later on, what that best university is. I didn't realize that when we talked the other day that you went there as well. So
indeed, that's why I'm smiling like this.
Yeah, I was so impressed with don't want to call out his title without his permission, but he's a big mucky muck in the arts and science. I was so impressed with the amount of programs that they're running to help us balance out. His ability to connect with instinctual work, the things that he wants the deans are doing at different schools. It's powerful. And when we forget that and just focus on that 10%, which is good about what you're doing. I want to ask you a little bit more about your book. Tell us the title again, and then how it fits into your current work.
Okay. The title is Unbreakable Woman. That was the program. That was my signature program at the time. Compassionate Self-Defense and Empowerment. I started first providing evidence-based approach to using instincts, to using intuition in order to stay safe, because I felt like the women's empowerment piece, I wanted to participate in that in a very conscious way. It was my first attempt to bring conscious, deliberate living to the self-defense space, which was very disruptive. People are just like, I just want to learn to punch and kick. I'm like, I don't think you get it.
Yeah, and I don't get it.
I'm like, let me tell you, I worked on an ambulance for 7 years.
Yes.
You don't want to fight, ladies. It doesn't look like the movies. If you've ever been in a scuffle, it's ugly, it's sloppy, everybody gets hurt, always. You don't want to get in a physical altercation, trust me. Part of it is there's this romance about feeling powerful through physical violence, meeting violence with violence, versus being powerful and the violence doesn't happen. It was about being. It was entry level of deliberate conscious level and being authentically powerful.
I'm starting to see that now. Starting to see where you're going with that. Because what we're saying is that maybe I'm not, because in a way I'm saying, okay, silence is power.
Yes.
Attacking is displaying your weakness.
Correct. It's two weak people scrapping. And I want to tell you a really quick story.
Yeah.
So in all of my days, I was very hypervigilant, and nobody ever messed with me because I carried myself like I was ready to fight, because I was afraid that I didn't have the power. It was my fear that created the hypervigilance that drove me to write the book. That was the book I wanted to read when I was afraid to walk across campus. That's actually the origin of the book.
Oh,
I was walking across campus because I would go to the free weight room and lift like a maniac until it closed at 10 o'clock at night, and then walk across campus, the dark campus, lit as best as I could. This is back in the 80s. And I was afraid. So I really would have loved to have had that book. I would have loved to have had that information. It would have helped me feel safer. So that's why I wrote the book. It was for me. Now, I never, ever got into a situation where someone physically threatened me the entire time. I never had that story to tell. And then I started getting into the work I'm doing now. And I had this meditation that was awful. And this will answer your question. I was frustrated. I've been meditating for 20 years. And in this meditation, somehow I'm like, my God, I can't control my thoughts. And then I started to judge myself. Then I got frustrated that I was judging myself. The whole thing just started to spiral. And in that moment, a voice said to me, you're just doing it exactly right. And it was like my higher self saying, that's right, kiddo. This is exactly the meditation you're supposed to have right now. And this flood of self-acceptance just knocked me into a puddle of tears. And I'm just like, self-acceptance for the very first time in my life. And I felt this connection to something larger than myself, to my source, to my higher self. And I felt wholeness for the first time in my entire life. And I went for a run because I was so full of energy. I went for a run in the woods, and I noticed this guy who was walking out of the trailhead as I was walking in. And he asked me, he was cursing and being weird, but I'm like, whatever. I say hello to everybody. I'm like, hey-o. And he goes, as I'm running by, he asks me, are you in special forces? As I'm running by, I'm like, what a weird question.
Yeah.
And I said, not today. My intuition spat that out. I didn't think about it. And intuition's beyond cognition. And then I got this flood of information. If I see that guy, like if I'm in a physical altercation, I already know my move. I always high five to the face. That's the move. It's not lethal. It distracts him so I can run away. All this information started coming to me intuitively. I'm like, why am I getting information about a physical altercation in the woods right now? And then I kept getting this thing, if you see him again, engage. If you see him again. Now he was walking away, ran for 40 minutes. And as I was coming out of the trailhead, sitting on a bench was him.
Bruh.
He waited for me. Yeah. And I got the intuition. I heard from source. You can call it God if you want. Engage. So I brought to him this wholeness, this self-love, this reverence for life that I had just experienced in the meditation. I brought all that energy to bear, not a shred of fear, nothing but love for myself. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? I kept my distance. Like I got about 10 feet from him. I'm not stupid, just full of love.
Yeah. Make sure there's room to react.
I got room to react if I need to, because I really didn't feel the need. I did not feel afraid of him. And he was very creepy. And he unzipped his jacket and he said, I wrote a song for you. You can't make this stuff up, Glenn. He said, I wrote a song for you. And he reaches in and gets out his harmonica. He says, do you want to hear it? I said, of course I want to hear it. I'm so excited you wrote a song for me. What's it called? And he says, Rape Whistle. Now, what man says to a strange woman in a secluded trail, whistle?
And who is about to get hurt.
A man who is trying to figure out whether or not the person in front of him is going to be a good victim. I know all this, not intellectually, because of the work I did for the past decade. And I got to tell you, it never got close to me. It never made me nervous. I was so full of love. I was so full of God in that moment. Listen to him. Quite a good harmonica player, by the way.
Oh.
And when he was done, I said, thank you so much for that. And he did not, there was I wish this was a movie. If you could have felt the tension between him doing his thing and me standing there listening to it, it took about 3 hours, even though it took about 5 seconds.
Yeah, I felt that way, didn't it? Yeah.
It did, because I'm like listening, it's still full of all the love. And I said, thank you for that. And he said, I come here a lot. I said, I'm sure this forest, because I was like one with everything in the moment. Sure, this forest appreciates your gifts, appreciates your music. Trees love it. This forest loves you. And I said, listen, I'm going to get going. And I turned my back to him and I walked past him. And he said, God bless you. And I turned to him with my entire heart. And I said, God bless you.
See, I think if we just unpack that just for a second, it's real short unpacking, I think. Trust yourself. Okay? You had the built up, the meditation, the smack down, everything that you have to smack yourself down and say, hey, it's okay. Okay, I'm right. The voice that tell you they had the good, long, powerful run, more meditation, and you got back to the point and you said, well, I can trust myself here. I trust what I've been led to do. And that is hard to do.
Glenn, I got to tell you, it never, ever in my wildest dreams would have occurred to me that the moment I let go of Unbreakable Woman, I get an Unbreakable Woman story.
Yes.
And it really was love. I felt love for that man. I felt his inner little boy. I felt love for him and I gave it to him. And I'm not suggesting that that we all walk around and I am. Love does heal all. He has never been looked at like a human because he's creepy and he's trying to hurt people. And yet I was just so full of the light that it never dawned on me to do anything other than I did. There wasn't a moment where I got scared or anything. I'm just like, this whole thing is being handled by something so much larger than me. We met on purpose for me to see how powerful love is and for him to experience his own humanity.
There's something that is missing, but not missing. And I want you to tell me how far off track you think I am or how it plays here. But does it come also down to asking better questions?
100%. That's how I get it done with my clients. It's always questions, always.
Okay. Because in this particular gentleman's case, a better question would be, what happened to you as a boy?
Exactly. That's a question to ask any single time. Every time there's some crazy story, the kind of stories that I mean, nobody ever, if that story were followed up and they went into that criminal's history, they would see a scared, broken boy who was either abused himself or witnessed horrific abuse. That's how these people get built. They are built. They are not born.
I was in a discussion about the generation behind us, 2 generations behind us. And we got the other gentleman was really adamant that this was a horrible generation. I said, if it is, it's our fault because we're the ones that allowed them to play these horrific video games where it's just blood and guts all over the place.
Yeah.
Would you consider that a better question? Is that the reason why it's tough?
I think video games definitely desensitize, but millions of young men play video games and never hurt anybody.
I'm going to disagree with you. And I'm
Okay.
not going to go political here, but if you think about it, how can someone get on television and say the horrible, filthy things they said about women, and yet 70 million people vote for them, 30 of which were women? They were
How can
desensitized. Yeah,
how
I
can
think,
they?
yeah, they were desensitized to that type of treatment of women.
I think that, all right. Oh, I love this question. How can that happen, you ask? Here's what I believe. I believe that the only thing that mattered to certain people who were so fearful of the other, people who were deeply racist, deeply fearful of people different than themselves, who have been taught that people different from themselves don't belong in this country. Never mind, it was built by all these people.
Yes.
They
yes.
have been taught that people different from them don't belong here, and they're ruining everything, and they're committing all the crimes and stealing all the jobs and doing all the things. People who hold those values dear to them were finally met with someone in the presidential election who said, "You're absolutely right. You get to think that way. Not only that, you should not be ashamed. It's okay. It's true." They were so excited to finally have permission to feel good about those values, that everything else paled, nothing else mattered, because racist people, the inequities are deep between the genders and the ethnicities. And those people were so desperate, especially after 8 years with a president that scared them and triggered them. And you know what I mean? And I gotta tell you, Glenn, you and I, because we share the same political values, we got a heaping serving of empathy, because the way we felt, not my president, was exactly what they felt for 8 years. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying, wow, I got it. I know exactly how they feel.
How you're feeling. We're going to have a podcast on this. You and I probably should co-host this one, because that's the subject, but I'm going to say this, and then we're going to move off of it, because George Wallace was the same way, and he had no hopes of becoming president of the United States in those days. No hopes, because most people weren't going to accept that. I'm going to have to be desensitized enough where people could accept that. George Wallace had the exact same message, and he ended up getting shot because that exact same message didn't resonate. Stuff was happening, and we saw it. And when they finally got the national coverage of the bridge crossing, it didn't matter what George Wallace said. People's empathy jumped up. But George Wallace preached that exact same story and had no hope. But anyway, that brings me to a question that I had. This came up after our pre-talk. And then I saw that you were doing this type of work. So I want to ask you about this. How do we reshape our culture? That's what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
How do we reshape our culture? This is in your area.
It is my area. This is what I love to do. So there's 2 different ways. I'm going to say there's 3 things. I'm going to be very bold and say there's 3 ways.
Okay.
Number 1, we must reshape ourselves. We must be willing to take radical personal accountability for all of the things we have been taught, for all the things that have been normalized, and recognize whether or not those values contribute to a kind and equitable world culture, a society. We have to do that individually first. Personal accountability for how we are interacting with our brothers and sisters, what we are consuming, whose products we buy is a contribution to something. The companies we support, right? The media that we choose, the books that we read, the magazines we consume, all of it. We are contributing to different frequencies. It starts with every individual being very conscious and deliberate in who they spend their money with, because money talks. So that's number 1. Number 2.
Wow.
All right, you hadn't heard that one before?
No, I kind of hadn't thought about it before.
Okay.
I've made conscious decision personally not to spend money with certain airlines or certain hotel chains or certain things, just based upon some of their decisions that they've made.
That's right.
But as a nation, even if only 15% of us decided, okay, this particular company we're not going to do business with because of that policy,
That's right.
that company would change their policy.
Yes, they would. And this is what people don't understand. Watch the movie Ants, folks. Watch the movie Ants.
Spell that.
Ants. It is I believe it's a Pixar movie. It's a cartoon. Okay. It's about the ants and the grasshoppers.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah. And yeah.
It's a wonderful parable. It's a modern day parable.
It's a good movie, actually.
It is indeed. So I love so thank you. Yes. Thank you for putting that up there. We all have a responsibility. And if companies ever had here's the thing. Most people aren't that engaged in what companies are doing. They don't care. Like, they just want their stuff. So the more people begin to pivot off of that reality and move into more of this company has 12 lawsuits against their employees, men and women, for unfair practices, for unequal pay, harassment. And this company that offers the exact same thing treats their employees well. I'm going to support them and their culture. So we have an opportunity to vote. Now, the second piece of this, and this is where I like to work with leaders, are the culture makers themselves. I used to have an expression when I was working as a Fortune 500 consultant: an ounce of CEO prevention is worth a pound of HR.
Oh, that's one of those phrases I think I told you about that people should be writing that down.
Should definitely write that down.
And
right, trademark, Barclay, 2021. Yeah. P.S. I with very rare exception, I could not get arrested because they wanted the women's empowerment stuff, but when it came to changing the culture from the top to prevent the stuff they had me there to help with, it was cricket. And there are CEOs and VP suites and C-suites that actually are open to this, that are open to being open. And these are the people, pretty soon they're going to find out that the way they're doing things is not sustainable for two reasons. One, people are going to start voting more with their money. And number two, the vast majority of employees coming into the workforce, and I think in just a few years, it's going to be something like 75% of them, they're millennials.
Yes.
And guess what millennials care about? They care about your why. They care about company values. And they are not long-term employees if they don't feel like they can care about what they're doing.
Let me ask you, because millennials, I believe, spend more time collaborating than competing.
I would agree with that.
So if they're spending that time collaborating, they're going to look at an organization that is a collaborative, peaceful environment versus one that's competing to knock you down. And they're also saying that millennials will be the largest part of the workforce by 2024.
That's what I heard. Okay, you and I got that same statistic, 2024, just a couple of years. That's right.
Is that what it's going to take to reshape the culture? We can't wait that long, though.
Oh, sure we can. Sure we
can.
Going
to, but
we're gonna.
I'm wondering how much can we reshape it now? But you probably you have three things you want to talk to about. You're going to address it on how we change or reshape this.
You need to. There's some things could happen instantaneously. All right, let's just say I'm going to throw something very wild out there just for context. Just for context. If there was an alien visitation that was very public, very peaceful, our culture would be shaped instantaneously.
Yes.
So you want to change it quick? An alien visitation would do something like that. Just for frame of reference here.
Now, an attack upon the entire world.
It would absolutely. Now, what we're talking about here is generational and ancestral DNA, right? It takes time now we can get some quantum leaping that can occur. However, when there is so much resistance to the change, the quantum leap is oftentimes difficult. So it seems to me that we're going to have to be very Newtonian about how we reshape our culture until we have a massive paradigm shifting event occur, right? Until then, one, we have our radical personal accountability. Two, we have the culture makers themselves being more and more open to being open, because their workforce will disappear and they cannot maintain their shareholders' track without employees.
Right.
They will have an economic imperative to shift their thinking, and money talks at that level. So that's another way. And the third way, and this is going to sound a little maudlin, forgive me, the old guard will die and take their ways with them.
Yes.
It's just, I'm going to die and take my ways with me. So we are evolving. I tell you who's going to save it all. I think my daughter's generation. She's 9 and she goes to school with kids every color. They just haven't learned that's not normal. And they even have a child who's nonverbal, and he comes in this, he's got 2 aides with him, and he's got like a Stephen Hawking thing where everybody, and they go and they talk to him and they have the best time. Like they had a birthday party for him, and everybody knows, like sometimes you talk to people who have those. There's just they haven't learned the difference about differences yet. And in fact, my daughter's, I adopted her. It's a little Pacific Island girl, right?
Yeah.
So my daughter is not white, and people never blink that I'm her mom. Like they just assume, like I have a dark-skinned father. They just assume, and it's all good in the hood. So I believe these 3 components are going to create a critical mass. And everybody likes to complain about the millennials. The millennials may be the very thing that convince these hard-boiled sociopathic, because they've been taught they have to be, right? See, sociopathy is learned, by the way. These are not people who are going out committing crimes. So sociopathy is a natural part of making big decisions where you cannot care about how it affects people, right? So I don't mean to say sociopathic in a criminal way here, so please don't misunderstand. But these people who are like so entrenched in their culture and be like, oh, good old boy, cigar smoking, and these little baristas, these kids are going to come in and just be like, I don't care if you're the CEO. What's this company stand for if you want me to be here? Make it fun for me, they say.
Make it work for me. I could get my why.
Irony. Think about the irony here, Glenn. Nothing can change the minds of these billionaires except for these really high maintenance, low resiliency kids.
Because you know what? If they have no problem leaving,
they don't.
Because in my mind, there is no loyalty on either side.
No. Yeah.
I look at companies like AT&T. At one time that was supposed to be around forever. Okay, look where they are now, based on even after all that. So I see the 3 areas you're pointing at.
Yes.
But I want to go back to that very first one, accountability.
Yes.
And you talk about this too. And that's your ability to create your own reality. What do you mean?
We are creators, every single one of us. Now, I don't want to get too deep into the metaphysics of this. As I understand it at my current level of consciousness, we are living in a mental construct, and we are nothing but energy, and everything around us is energy. So our minds have an organizing effect. Anything that we believe will be shown to be true in our reality. A perfect example of this is people who believe in evil and demons. They see it everywhere. They just see evil. They just see all this darkness perpetrated on people, and they're very afraid. People who see angels and believe that people are basically good. Imagine their life, seeing like random acts of kindness. They're seeing people support each other. They're seeing humanity around them because of what they believe. The mind has an organizing effect. You will live the life you believe you should be living. You will live the life you believe you deserve. And we have a crisis of worthiness in this world. When you feel worthy of a good life, you will have it. When you feel you are not lovable, not worthy, even though you talk about it, truly don't believe that it's yours, that you can have it, that you can create it, then you will be right. Whatever you believe, you will be right. Now, the good news is beliefs are nothing more than a repetitive thought that neurologically, this is where the neurofacilitation piece of what I do comes in. A belief is a thought that has been repeated until it has been surrendered to and accepted as fact. And we have seen this, speaking of the presidency and the media, we've seen this happen in the last decade. I grew up in the Walter Cronkite era. So watching what's happened to media has been astonishing to me. If you repeat something, enough times, people will believe it to be
People
true.
believe it, yes.
That's how beliefs get made. And the good news is you can undo those beliefs and make new beliefs anytime. The brain is just plastic. Neuroplasticity is how we continue to grow and create new neural pathways so that we can change how we live. This is why my clients have such powerful experiences with me, because of what we're talking about right now. We create the reality we want. And if you don't like what you're creating, get with somebody who knows how to help you change what you believe, and then start working that practice and create a new life. And my clients have gone on to do remarkable things in just 90 days, some of them, in 2 weeks, some of them, just complete flips. Everything that we have been taught to believe comes from our family of origin and some experiences in our formative years, but predominantly our family of origin. So there's all of this ancestry. And by the way, behaviors are on our DNA. Here's something I would like to give you. Do you know about the rose water experiment with the mice?
No.
Okay. This is the thing that people don't realize. One, epigenetics. This means you can change your DNA. DNA is very influenceable. Now, by that, I don't mean if you want to be 10 feet tall, but you are an Eastern European person like myself, I'm not going to grow any taller than I am. However, behavioral affinity, this is completely malleable within our DNA. And what I mean by that is an experiment was done with mice where the mice were had rose water, a little rose water floated into their cage. And when it came in, a little shot came to the floor, which was startling to them. So they now began to associate the rose water with the shock. They went through a generation, a new generation. So they did this with a pregnant female. When her babies were born and they were old enough to walk around the cage, when they put rose water in the cage, what do you think the little babies did? They reacted. They reacted. That behavior, that survival was programmed through DNA and passed to, in one generation, I believe, passed to the kids. This is how alcoholism, it's all just behavior. It's carried on our genes because behavior comes from thought. It comes from feeling. Thought and feeling have a frequency. That frequency gets encoded into our DNA. That frequency can be changed.
Okay, that makes sense in a very deep way also. Not just behavior, but health.
100%. You know me, I'm a cancer survivor. Talked about this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I came to understand, holy crap, I had the power to make myself sick. They know what that means.
Yeah, you have the power to make yourself well. Yeah.
100% I do. And I've seen in the Dr. Joe Dispenza community, thousands of people who have had miraculous healings. Ain't no miracle. They believe they can do it, and they do. 4th stage cancers, and the doctors are throwing their hands up saying, I don't even know what to put on your documents. Your cancer's gone. We don't know what to do. Like, they don't know what to do. The medical community doesn't know what to do with this. And they keep saying, as it's anecdotal, but eventually when you have millions of people who have done this, now you have some statistics that bear research, right?
Yeah. And actually, you know, like I told my doctor, I don't even bother telling me the numbers because I'm not a number.
That's right. It doesn't apply to me. That's what I told my oncologist, literally just a couple of days ago. Did you get your flu shot? I'm going to get a COVID shot. Don't get me wrong. But for flu shots, I'm like, nah, flu doesn't apply to me. I don't get sick. And I don't.
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't going to get a flu shot. I have never gotten. Now, the vaccine I did get, but the flu shot I've never gotten because it just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't get sick. I just don't get the flu. Yeah, this is different, but I don't get the flu. I think that what you're saying gets encoded but can be recoded by you.
Correct.
And I want to ask you, because you're saying it's a thought, but aren't these thoughts habits that you have to, your thoughts build your belief, but these habits build your belief?
Habits are reinforcers.
Oh, okay, that's the other side. They reinforce those thoughts. Okay.
That's right. And most thoughts are reaffirming. So any thought thoughts, do you get what? So thoughts are usually reaffirming beliefs. And there's something called a confirmation bias. And people will look for confirmation in their environment so they feel correct. So they feel like, no, this belief is correct. We saw this on a national scale with Donald Trump. He was an affirmation that racism is okay. I've been thinking these thoughts for generations. And here comes
Racism,
this.
sexism, all that is okay.
Do you
And
see? He reinforced that it's okay. Oh, finally. I'm so relieved. It's okay to
yeah,
be ignorant. Oh, thank
yeah,
God.
I said it, and he said it first, the loudest, and the most.
That's right. And I've been living with shame for so long. And this man has basically given me the relief. I don't have to feel guilt or shame. Of course they did, because nobody taught them anything different. And that doesn't mean that you don't have the responsibility to wake up. It doesn't mean that. I don't condone it. Ignorance is
No,
a choice. We have Google, people. Ignorance is a choice. Everybody needs to know this. 100% ignorance
yeah.
is a choice. And if you choose to be ignorant, own it.
There's a cartoon out, Calvin and Hobbes, and I used to use it at the start of my jobs. And Calvin was all upset. He's in a classroom, and Hobbes said, "I'd rather be here than be ignorant." I think that's so powerful. I'd rather be here than be an ignorant person. And I think we'll get there. Like I said, those 3 changes will get there. I like that. I think we're looking at, I'm going to push it out a little bit to a bit of a grander scheme, though, real quick. Then I got another question for you to be respectful of your time and get you wrapped up here a little bit. And I just lost that question.
I could talk to you for an hour. If I didn't have a meeting, I would just be like, keep talking to you.
Yeah, there's so much more. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, we're going to do this again, because there's a lot of things left to be unwrapped. Since I lost the question, let me go to this question right here. Okay. I want you to inspire us. Now, tell us a couple things. Number one, we're going to go back to your book, because that's inspirational, powerful book. But what other books would you recommend that might help support your book?
Okay. Oh my goodness. So that book I wrote that in 2013, and
Time
it was my
for
first
tomorrow.
at bat.
Yeah.
And because I thought, here's the bottom line. Nobody's trying to be conscious or meditate if they don't feel safe. If their basic hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are not being met, they are not trying to meditate. And this is the thing,
Really?
people feel that they will have prosperity mindset once the money comes. And that's not how it works, folks.
No,
So
the other
when
way.
you meditate, or if you just sit quietly and do this breathing and feel how amazing it is to have the things that you want, because you can't want what you already have. I'm going to say that again. You can't want what you already have. So when you bring about in your imagination, which is real, your brain, it's real according to your brain. Your brain does not know the difference between an imagined experience and a had experience. So the way that we create the reality that we want is through imagination and feeling. And the feeling is probably more important than anything, because that's the language of the universe. Universe can't be bothered to learn our language. That's why if you keep saying what you don't want, all the universe knows is there's a lot of emotion here. There's a lot of focus here. You clearly want this thing.
And it delivers what you're feeling.
Yes.
Okay, see, we're in so much agreement there. We use different words, but that's really powerful. I think the universe communicates to you on a vibrational level.
Yes.
And your feelings are vibration.
Indeed. Very powerful vibration.
And when you have something to learn, the universe communicates it to you vibrationally, and then you translate it if you allow it.
Indeed. That's part of what intuition is.
Yeah, I think so. First thing, 2013, that's a long time. You got 2 more books in you that are now overdue. Okay,
At least.
they're overdue.
At least.
Yeah,
and one of them is for parenting, because raising conscious, respectful children, it's called Alpha Dogs and Mama Bears. It's in progress, and it's how to raise conscious, respectful kids.
I'm going to have you co-host with me when we do. I have she's not a teenager anymore, but she used to nanny. And her book that she's developing, her course that she's developing, is based along these lines. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Still though,
I didn't answer your question.
Yeah. What inspired you? Yeah.
Here's one of the books and for my private clients, I offered a curated experience for them. They pay a lot of money to work with me. And so one of the things I do is their conscious concierge, if you will, consciousness concierge, is I curate a book list for them. Every month they get another book that is coherent. It is organized with their level where they're at in their cycle with me. And almost always the first book I recommend for everybody is a book called Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. This is a near-death experience recollection that will inspire you in ways you didn't know you needed to be inspired.
That is very interesting.
You want to know about the universe and the reality of consciousness, what it means to be living on this planet, and the parents who drive you crazy, and the power to make yourself sick and heal? Read that book or listen to it.
Well, yeah, read it. Don't listen
Read
to
it.
it. Read it. Yeah, read it.
I listen to it on audio, on Audible. But yeah, it will help you understand the nature of life on this planet and consciousness. It is from a very human perspective, and it's 100% real.
Okay. So there's a book, Dying to Be Me,
Dying
that I
to
think
Be
we should
Me.
look at. And then this will be the kind of final question for you. How are you helping? Because you can't do all the work you can. You work with other transformation coaches.
Indeed.
How are you doing that?
I find that transformational coaches like myself are a special breed. Listen, because people who help with finances, like that's their thing. People who help with organizational communication, that's their thing. What we do as transformational coaches is work at the soul level. We are working with epigenetics. We are working with neuroplasticity. We're working with your roots, with your past, with your DNA inheritance.
Yeah, that's so
We are a
powerful.
special bunch, man.
Yeah.
It takes a certain kind of person to be able to be that kind of leader. One of my clients called me a spiritual Sherpa. So that's what we're doing, man. We're helping you up the mountain. We know the way, and we've learned the way through our own evolution. So the way that I'm helping these coaches, because they are so deeply needed, especially now. So many people are awakening and don't know what to do. Transformational coaches typically have had their own awakening, and they're very clear on how they're creating their reality, and they can help their clients do this. So those are the people that with whom I'm working. They still have, many of them, unresolved issues from their family of origin that are blocking them from showing up as the sovereign leader they need to be in order to create a safe space for the people they want to serve. So what I'm helping them do is be world-class CEOs of their own thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, help them unwind their money mindset issues, because a lot of them, listen, we're altruistic and we're also business people. It is a very strange place to live. I believe everybody should get to have everything for free. Healing is a birthright. Then again, we live in a culture where when people pay money, they actually do the work. Bottom line is people pay to pay attention. I have to charge. One of it, I definitely deserve to get paid for what I do. I really value my work. I value the services and the results that I provide. And a lot of people who come from my background or are in working in my realm, they really struggle with this. They feel guilt and shame around charging at the level that they need to be charging for people to show up and do this very challenging work. I've had people walk away from 5-figure fees, Glenn, because the work got too hard. You know what that told me? It should have been a 6-figure fee.
Yeah.
Because that work needed to happen for that person, and the money wasn't important. As the fear got bigger than the money, I'm like, I needed to charge you more money. So that's a lot what the money is about. They don't know how to reconcile that because they're empaths, they're intuits, they understand the nature of consciousness and why they're here. So I help them discover their own value. I help them understand and stand in their authority in their particular lane. That's really important. If you want people to surrender to you, you need to be strong and you cannot be judgmental. So I help them unwind some of the places where they're judging themselves, because they'll pass that along completely unconsciously to their clients. So I help them unwind that self-judgment. I help them understand how to be the authority of themselves so they can pass that along to their clients. Yeah.
We were talking about that just the other day for hypnotherapists.
Yeah.
You have to unwind. You have to be set to do that. All right. So you're helping people do this. Do you have online classes that you're teaching and sharing with them, or do you have group coaching sessions? If you have transformational coaches who tuned in and said, hey, I want you to be my coach. Ladies and gentlemen, you need coaches. I have a spiritual coach. I have a financial coach. I have a business coach. I have a marketing coach. I have coaches. Okay. And if you're going to get someplace where we want to go to, you got to have a coach. There's got to be some people out there listening saying, how do I work with you? Tell us.
There's a couple ways. I have a free gift that I offer transformational coaches so they can get a sense of how I work, because I want to be super clear. I don't work with everybody. Not everybody's ready to work at the level that I operate. And if you're not, and so what I would say is they're not ready yet. So I'm extremely picky. And one of the ways that I help people identify whether or not they'd be a good fit for me is to consume my free gift. It's called the Cause and Effect business model, not cause and effect, cause and effect. It's just what we're saying about creating reality. And it's on my website, which is mytransformationalcoach.com/effortless. And you'll get this, I think it's like a 30-minute video about how the transformational coaching business model is different than conventional business model because of the nature of the work that we do, and help these coaches feel like, oh, I'm not crazy. Conventional sales do not work for me. The mindset piece is so important. So I help transformational coaches. I introduce them to the business model that I used to build my 6-figure business in my first year, like coming from nowhere with no email list, nothing. I got very successful because of this list. And I started charging 5 figures for my time within just a few months because I was seeing how powerful
the value.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us that website again.
Sure. It's mytransformationalcoach.com/effortless. And the other place, and my info is on there, like my team, they can just reach out to my team, info@soulfulleader. All my info's on there, so they can reach out to my team if they want to connect with me. And the other place that I would love for them to come find me is the first 3 Wednesdays of the month. I have a show on Instagram called the Free Lunch Live. Free lunch is real, everybody. At 12:30 p.m. PDT, I go live and I answer questions from my community. So and I can't tell you how many people have found me there and then hired me as their coach. And the thing I love about it, Glenn, it's, you know how sprinters, they need to run stairs and things like this to get in shape. It's like running stairs as a coach, because a lot of these Instagram handles, I don't know their background. I don't know if they're male or female. I don't know how old they are. I got nothing. They're just a human. And then they ask me a question, and then I get to reflect to them. I get to reach in, like really like flex that intuition to help them. Oh my gosh, it is such a thrill. I love it. And I'll actually I'll put in if I can find it, it's @soulfulleader. That's my handle. I'm not sure where my cursor is. I'm afraid to click it right now. Okay, there it is. So I want to put in the chat for you just so you can see how it's spelled. @soulfulleader. I think I got that. That's my handle on Instagram. And I also do a lot of posting on YouTube. So come and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm putting up like a video or 2 a week, and it's all tools and practices. Make sure I spelled that right. Soulful Leader. Yeah, I got it. Oh, good. I know how to spell my own signature program. Yeah. And the other way that if people
Make sure I spelled it right.
Right? Like I've got a word smash there. So my private program is sold out right now. It's a 6-month program. It's my high touch, high end program. And I only work with about 5 people at a time. That's sold out. But I have a it's a fraction of the cost actually for transformational coaches, because I really want them to get the information and be able to apply it fast. So I have a 7-week do-it-yourself effortless enrollment bootcamp. And if anybody wants information about that, just go to the website and email my team. And that is it's an evergreen. You just you get access to my online academy, and you do it at your own pace, and it's yours forever. And it will help you unwind your money mindset and learn how to mentor people when you're on your enrollment calls, but you never ever sell. I've never sold. I refuse. I'm like, it's gross. I don't like it. And listen, people who love sales, I love it for them. I love it for them. I'm not into it. I'm not into the hunt. I'm not into the kill. I'm into partnership and celebration. That's what I'm into.
My coach has really hammers into me. Selling is not you. You need to sell somebody, then you're cutting yourself off from finances.
Yeah.
6, 7 figure incomes don't come from people who know how to sell. They come from people who know how to attract the right business.
That's right.
We're going to do this again. I promise every listener, because we have a lot to cover, and it's the mindset that's going to make the CEO great. Okay. The CEO probably got wrapped up into this and thinking, this is how it's going to work in my personal life with the CFO or the senior level person. But these things apply to your company. Okay. Yeah, they apply to your personal life. But if you want to change the culture of your company, Maura just told you. Okay. Now you know how to go do it.
That's right.
Okay. Time. But let me just ask. Let me just ask you one other thing.
Do it.
What questions did I not ask you that you wish I would have asked you?
I think the piece about radical personal accountability was really important.
Oh yeah, that I cannot begin to tell you. My mentor just put me through a 4-week session on the 4 agreements, and that not the last agreement, holding yourself accountable. No, the highest, best thoughts all the time. That's the first agreement. Highest, best thoughts all the time. You're going to hold yourself to having that. As soon as you get out of that, you pounce back into it. Yeah, I agree with that. Responsibility, radical responsibility for yourself is important. But that's not my question. My question is, what did I miss?
I don't think that you missed anything. I think that there's a question that might be helpful for people. Yes, here it is. My intuition just spoke.
Okay.
The question is, and this is a question that you could ask me, but most because you share this with me. Can you tell me a little bit about the cancer experience? What was the cancer experience like? And the reason that I like this question, and most people are reluctant to ask about it, which is why I have to offer it, is because I have a completely different perspective about cancer. And well, one, I gave it to myself. I opened the door for it. I didn't, not consciously, not on purpose. Good Lord.
Right. Who
But
do it on purpose? But
I didn't do it on purpose, but I totally saw my fingerprints all over that diagnosis. It was me. And when something like that happens, the moment we can shift our understanding about it from this happened to me to this happened for me. Now, when I work with people, I take them one step further, which is why not everybody's ready to work with me. I'm going to take you into this happened by me.
Oh, okay.
Guess who brought it for me? Me. And this is the infinity loop that trips a lot of people up.
Oh,
and the reason,
keywords. Right? Infinity loop that trips you up because
yes,
key.
Yes, I wanted to just touch on this briefly because I think it was who was it? Lou, who was the name that famous coach? Oh, I can't remember.
Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz, who said life is 10% of what happens to you and it's 98% of how you interpret it. Cancer is considered like one of those awful, oh no, not that everybody's terrified of it. And I understand, and a lot of people have died from it. So I don't mean to make light of that or diminish the loss that people felt when they lost loved ones. That's their experience. And I honor that. I also honor my experience, which was amazing. It taught me everything I needed to know about surrendering to something bigger than myself. It opened the door for this entire business, my success, and my privilege to witness people changing their DNA, shifting their mindsets, letting go of old agreements. It opened the door for my greatest honor and for me to live in my purpose. Cancer saved my life, and it was a huge gift. And I'm so glad that I gave it to myself. I don't need to do it again. I don't need to do it again, Glenn. Just like you and me are like, my oncologist is, we're going to give you some information about reoccurrence. I'm like, keep it. It doesn't apply to me. And I'm not in denial. It's just, I'm not even that person. I've forgotten who she is.
It sounds like that person, there's 2 people walking down the street and one person's going to see all the negative. You're that person doesn't, what? I don't see that negative. I don't see it. But people will constantly, and I would ask about that only in private because that is a place that I think only, to be honest, 2 cancer survivors can understand.
Sure.
Okay. But that's a powerful lesson, because when you said not for me, but by me, that's part of the cycle. By your infinite wisdom, what are you going to do with it? And you have taken it. You have taken
That's
it.
right. The reason I wanted to bring it up is it doesn't matter what the story is: cancer, divorce, bankruptcy, death in the family, natural disaster. It doesn't matter what the story is. It is not happening to you, it is happening for you, by you. And what are you going to do with it? How do you want to look at it?
Make a
How do you want to
difference.
look at it? This is why I wanted to bring it up, because it doesn't matter what happens for you. The only thing that matters is what you do with it. That is that radical personal accountability. This is how we change culture.
It's what you do with it.
It's what you do with it.
Such a powerful day. You have a hard stop, I understand, and
I do.
I don't, but I'm going to let you get to it. I'm going to let you get to it.
All right, next time, I'm just
Next time.
giving you the afternoon, Glenn,
Yeah.
and we're going to get some cocktails, and we're just going
And
to
we're
do a
gonna work it
live
out.
happy hour.
Yeah.
That's right. We're just going to work it out.
That's kind of brilliant, actually.
Why don't we do it? Why don't we do a cocktail hour sometime? I would love to. Are you kidding me? An excuse to talk to you and have a drink? Come on.
That works. I'm good for that. That works. because
Done. We're
that's
going to do
absolutely
that.
Brilliant.
Okay, we're going to do that.
Okay, and let people join in if they want to. That's
That's
perfect.
right. Happy hour. Glenn and Maura,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. And then you know what? We'll do that, and we'll let people know what university we're talking about.
That's
being
right.
the best. But for now, that's your teaser to come back.
That's right.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate everything you brought to the table. We got a lot more to bring to the table, though. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
Okay.